What's up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of my podcast, Happy Days, with me, Callum Church. Now today, I'm going to talk about unplugging a little bit, because in the world that we live in these days, it's quite easy to feel unclear, unmotivated, stressed out, overwhelmed, these kinds of things. And the reason for this is simply because we as humans are overstimulated. We are massively overstimulated. Why? Well, think about it. At just the touch of a button, at the end of your fingertips, we have so many things so easily given to us en masse. At the end of your fingertips, there's TV, there's messaging, there is work, there is dating, there is food delivered straight to your door. Think about how many hours a day are you spending staring at screens, And I don't want to be a Karen. I don't want to come across as someone who's bashing you, telling you to get off your phone and this kind of thing. But the fact is, it does you a lot of damage. And this goes way under our radar. We don't even realise these things. And that's what I'm going to be talking about in today's episode of the podcast. I'm going to be talking about some of the damage which this is actually doing to us and our brains, and the damage it's ultimately doing to our lives as well. Because it's not a good thing to be overstimulated. It's really not. It is damaging. It is one of the reasons, this is an incredibly nuanced topic, but it's one of the reasons why so many people are depressed and stressed and overwhelmed. It honestly is. Just because our brains were not made for this world that we live in these days. Our brains aren't able to handle all of this stuff en masse every day so easily at the touch of a button. Think about how much time you spend, watching TV, and when you're not watching TV, what are you doing? You're probably working. When you're not working or watching TV, what you eating? You're probably stuffing your face with food, no? And if you're not doing that, then you might be doing something else which is ultra stimulating, like playing a video game or something like that, So this can be actually really damaging in the world that we live in, living with all this overstimulation, because our brain works in systems. The human body works in a lot of systems, We have your respiratory system, you have your digestive system, you have your reproductive system, all of these different systems, and the brain is mostly the same. The brain works mostly the same with a lot of the psychological stuff which goes on in your head. It works in a lot of different systems. One of these systems being your reward system, your dopamine system. Now, what is your reward system? What's it supposed to do? It's supposed to reward you. Why? Because it is what motivates you to get shit done. To get shit done which your body needs, which you need in order to survive and in order to thrive. That is what the reward system is for. We need incentive to feed ourselves. We need incentive to entertain ourselves. We need incentive to find partners. We need incentive to find friends. Otherwise, simply, the human race would just not stick around very long. It is human nature for us to survive in whatever way we can. And now that the world has rapidly changed so much over the last few thousand years, or even just the last few hundred years at that, even the last 50 years, the world has changed so fast that our brains just simply cannot keep up. Our brains aren't adapting at the speed in which the world is changing. So as a result of that, our brains are out of date, and they're not up to handling the modern world which we give it, which we feed it all the time. Okay, so let's take us back a few 100,000 years, back to the early Homo sapiens. This is the period in which our brains had the best period of time for it to evolve. We had a fairly regular and consistent lifestyle for many, many years, hundreds of thousands of years, okay, 200,000 years or so, I think. Don't quote me. But yeah, our brains had the most time for it to evolve in that time. That is the world which our brains are suited for best, okay? Because the world has changed a lot since then. Well, it certainly changed a lot in the last few thousand years, which simply isn't enough time for our brains to evolve, And now that, survival comes fairly easy in the world that we live in, there's no, natural selection or anything like that which comes into play. So our brains just aren't suited for the world we live in. Now, let's take us back a few 100,000 years. What kind of world would you be living in? If you're one of those ancient Homo sapiens, what kind of world would your brain be fed each and every day? Well, you'd wake up and you certainly wouldn't eat first thing because you had to go out and forage. You had to go out and hunt. You had to go out and pick berries, pick fruits, and maybe hunt down, a woolly mammoth or something. I don't know. You had to go out and hunt, didn't you? And that would take, a few hours maybe. You'd have to go out and hunt. And you'd spend all of that time out in nature. You'd be out in the wild world. You certainly wouldn't be plugged into a phone, a glass illuminated screen for many hours of your day. No, you'd be out and taking in a lot less. It would be a lot of a much more slower, pace of life. You wouldn't be rushing around a concrete jungle or processing stuff in your head all day long for work or anything like that. You'd be doing a hunting for a few hours, and then for the rest of the day, you'd be back at your base or whatever you want to call it, back with your tribe, and you'd be cooking, and you'd be socializing, and you'd be chilling out pretty much. That's what they did back then. People think that maybe they might be out hunting all day. No, not really. A lot of the time, ancient Homo sapiens spent a lot of time sat socializing in the wild, not doing much. Now, fast forward a couple hundred thousand years, and we are living in a much different time right now. Fast forward a couple hundred years, and we are living in the complete opposite of that. We are living in a world which is out of nature, which is incredibly rapid. We have a rapid pace of life, and we don't actually do that much socializing anymore. We don't actually spend that much time taking time and care in order to get tasks done. In fact, we expect things to come at us, and they actually do. Instead of going out and hunting for a few hours, we just tap some buttons on our phone, and it gets delivered straight to our door. Instead of socializing with your tribe, you sit and, again, look at an illuminated glass screen, press some buttons, and that's socializing, apparently, in the modern world, And so, instead of not doing much day to day, now we are doing everything all at once, all throughout the day. And this is not healthy. This is not healthy for our brains. Because, again, our reward system is being screwed over, where we would once spend a lot of time at a task, a few hours hunting and such. Now it's coming straight at us through minimal effort. And the way in which our reward system works, it massively plays around with dopamine. Now, dopamine is your neurotransmitter for reward. It makes you feel good once you get something done. So, for example, when you tick something off your list, of your to-do list, you get a hit of dopamine. When you finish watching a video online, you get a hit of dopamine. When you eat food and that nutrition hits your body, you get a hit of dopamine again. And the more nutrition that has in it, the more dopamine you get. So foods high in carbohydrates and fats and sugars and such, they would have been pretty hard to come by 200,000 years ago, whereas now they come around pretty easily. Although, because they're so high in nutrition, the more dopamine you get. That's why we love junk food, is because it's so high in sugar. It's so high in, carbs and fats and that. That is why we love junk food, and why the healthy alternative might not always, be quite as rewarding. It doesn't make you feel as good. So we are constantly being hit by things with minimal effort. We're constantly being hit by this dopamine with minimal effort, and we don't really deserve it. We don't really deserve the rewards which our brain is giving us, and that's because of the world which we live in now. So, as a result of this, we have become addicts to dopamine. All of us are addicted to dopamine because we just can't get enough of it. We get hit with it every single day. Imagine if you were, doing a line of cocaine, or if you were smoking weed as much, or if you were doing some other drug, I don't know. And you did that nearly every hour of every day. How much do you think you'd rely on that? It's not going to be healthy, is it? And how hard is it going to be for you to cut out that lifestyle. It's going to be pretty difficult. How productive do you think you're going to be in the day? How nice is it going to be to spend time with you? You know, how nice is it going to be to socialize with you? You know, would you be a good boyfriend or a good girlfriend or a good husband or a good wife? I don't know. You know, it's something to think about, right? So we are addicted to this stuff and we just cannot stop. That is why you love watching Netflix so much. That is why you love eating junk food, you know? That's why you love playing video games. That's why you love all of this stimulating stuff. It's because you're addicted. You are actually addicted. So what's the answer to all of this? How do we stop this? How do we stop becoming so unmotivated, so unclear, so depressed and anxious and stressed and overwhelmed in our lives with all of this dopamine, with all of this overwhelm, with all of this stimulation? How do we stop this? We're going to have to forcibly cut ourselves away from that lifestyle. And look, I'm not saying you have to become a hermit and live in the wild and cut all of these stimulating sources of dopamine and such out. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that the healthy thing to do in the modern world which we live in would be to take a detox, to take a dopamine detox and try and slow down your life somewhat so that you get to a more healthy way of living, so you get to a more healthy lifestyle. Because that's what we need in order to be happy. A lot of the signs that you're not living a healthy life is actually sadness and depression and anxiety and these things. These signs that you're getting, which many people get, is simply a sign that you're not living a healthy lifestyle. It's simply showing you that all of this dopamine, which your brains are being fed every day, is saying it's not healthy. So you need to cut this out. You need to slow down. We need to intentionally unplug ourselves. We have to unplug ourselves from the matrix, from the circuit, from this busy, overwhelming and overstimulating modern life which we live. We need to stop that. So one way to combat this, and one thing which I do in order to combat this, because I'm a productivity kind of guy, I'm a self-development kind of guy, I'm trying to squish every single hour out of the day in order to be productive and get stuff done. Is this healthy? I don't know. But one thing which I do to counteract this and in order to calm myself down and not get overwhelmed or stressed or anxious, which I'm lucky to say I'm not, one of the things which I do to do this is I have a mindful morning routine. I have a slow morning routine. I take a really calm and relaxed morning every single day in order to keep my brain clear, to keep it not feeling anxious or unmotivated or overwhelmed, to calm it all down and get back to the kind of state which we should be living in, a state which isn't overwhelmed or overstimulated. So what do I do in my morning routine? Well, many of you will know that most mornings I either exercise or I go and jump in the sea. As of late, it's been jumping in the sea first thing, and I've been doing my exercise about 4 o'clock. I've been going to the gym. Haven't been running much as usual, but, we go through phases, right, with exercise and stuff. Anyways, first thing in the morning, I jump straight in the sea. No checking my phone, no checking my laptop, no checking nothing. I don't even look at it. I turn my alarm off and I get up and I get on with my day. Why? Because as soon as you pick up your phone and you're scrolling through your TikTok and watching a video, dopamine. New video, dopamine. New video, dopamine. New notification. Oh, so-and-so's liked your photo, dopamine. Oh, so-and-so's commented on your video, dopamine. Oh, your best friend's texted you, dopamine. All of this stuff. Scroll on Instagram, dopamine every single time you see this stuff, because every time you finish a video or you finish looking at a photo, you've completed a task. You might have learned something extremely insignificant, or you might have, seen something attractive, and that's given you a hit of dopamine, So I don't check my phone at all in the mornings. I go straight out and I jump in the sea. For other reasons, that's not really relevant to this, but I jump in the sea and I come back. And then when I come back, I don't look at my phone again. I go straight in the shower, get washed, get changed, and get ready for the real morning routine, the real mindful part of this morning routine, So, I'm at the shower, I'm changed, and I'm ready for what the day brings. some people might think that you might get started with work just now, but something which I've stopped doing is working too early. And I've actually taken the morning to get the more mindful things of my day done. So, first of all, I meditate. I spend 10 minutes every day to do a little bit of meditation in a quiet area. And this sort of calms my brain down, obviously. It lets me process thoughts which might be clogging up my brain or anything like that. And then I have a mindful morning following this. It sets my brain, to that slower pace of life, to a pace of life which might be a little bit closer to those ancient Homo sapiens, which we're supposed to be living like, And then following this, that will prep my brain ready for the day in a more mindful state of mind. And then I'll start reading. And I'll probably read about a chapter a day. Hopefully, that's what I aim to do. If it's a short couple of chapters, then maybe I'll read two. Morning, no checking the phone, meditation, and read. Now, reading is great for your education and learning. It's exercise for the brain. Some people call it. I call it that. I view it as that. I do. I view it as just as important as working out. You gotta work out for your body. You gotta read for your brain, right? And not only am I learning in this, but it's also just that slow, taking care kind of process, which just slows you down again, and it gets you to that slower, pace of life, because productivity isn't about rushing, getting loads done. Sometimes it is about, yes, getting stuff done, but taking care with that stuff. I mean, a minute I spend reading is definitely not a minute wasted. So just because you're taking a while to do things doesn't mean that it's not productive. What isn't productive is, spending time out of your day to do unproductive things, to do things like scroll through your social media and that, So take care and slow down with this, And also another thing which I do in my morning following this, or actually prior to this, before I start reading, I actually sort myself out with a nice herbal tea. I have a green tea in a Japanese teapot every morning, like a real hipster. And there's just something about it which, again, it's that slowing down, kind of taking care, practice, exercise, you could call it, I suppose. It sounds kind of weird to call having a cup of tea and a process of an exercise, but it's that, real slow, put the tea leaves in, pour the boiling hot water over it and let it brew for 2 minutes. You don't have that. It's no instant coffee kind of thing where you press a button and it comes out straight into your mug ready to drink. No, you got to, take the care with it and let it brew. And, again, it's just slowing down, I suppose, So that's how I spend my mornings. And look, it's no surprise whatsoever that things like slow brew teas are making a comeback. Things like record players and vinyl albums are making a bit of a comeback these days. I honestly think, it might be partly trendy and stuff like that, but I honestly think it's also because people like that stuff. I love putting a record on, or currently I've got my record player tucked away in a drawer, but when I had it out, I used to love that. Because it's just something about taking care to, first of all, really look after your vinyls. But then, there's the whole thing about putting it on the turntable and putting the needle on it carefully so as to not scratch it too much. And then, you start turning the turntable and stuff, and then music comes out. It's quite a nice, even beautiful process. And it's the same with tea as well, And it's just that slowing down, which is really quite beautiful, So doing this, if you do a mindful morning every day, and if you start slowing down your mornings, slowing down, parts of your day, and taking a moment just to get into that slower pace of life, this is going to free up your mind and help you live more positive, help you live more balanced, help you live more productive, and help you have better days. You might even be better at work if you just slow down a little bit. You might be, a lot happier as well if you just slow down a little bit. You might even be more productive if you slow down a little bit and you start slowly cutting out these stimulating or overstimulating, habits which you have every single day. Like scrolling through social media, like watching too much Netflix or binge eating junk food and things like that. you know. So this is really important, guys. Just do not forget to switch off, unplug, and take it easy now and then. You know, the last couple months, you know, you guys will know that I've not been doing the guest episodes. And honestly, it's been so good for me. Why? Because I've been able to slow down, take a step back, look at the bigger picture, think about where do I want to take things with the podcast, with my work, with all of these, you know, passions and ambitions which I have. Where do I want to take it? But also it's been great just to not do as much, just to not be in the grind. It's better to be in that sort of more healthy, creative state of mind, that slow state of mind, that state of mind that is okay with taking your time with things, looking at the little details and stuff. And it's the state of mind which allows you to get out the trenches and look at things a lot better with a lot of a clearer mind, you know. So it's been great for me, you know, not just in how healthy my brain is, but it's been good for me in work. It's been good for me in my mood. It's been good for me in terms of my happiness, you know. And just it's a lifestyle, right? You know, it's a lifestyle. So don't let your brains become overwhelmed. Otherwise, you'll be worse off as a human. And with that, I'm going to end today's episode. I do truly hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, please consider leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts because it does truly help the show. Also, let me know your feedback. I love hearing from you guys. Drop me a DM on Instagram. My Instagram handle is @callum.g.church. You can also check me out on TikTok as well. As I say, I'm posting a lot more videos on TikTok. So check me out there. That's @CallumChurch5. Again, I do truly hope you guys did enjoy today's episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys. So there you go, that's the end of the show. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe on your podcasting app of choice so you can download and listen as each episode is released. If this episode helped you in any way, tell your friends, tell your family, maybe even leave a cheeky review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps the show. But that's all for now. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next episode, released shortly. Take care.